Hello, I'm John Adams, editor of Digital Photo, and in this video lesson we're going to look at a special form of sharpening you can apply to your images using the high pass filter. Now this is kind of a connoisseur's method of sharpening, and it's particularly relevant to things like macro and close-up images. Because when you've got lots of fine sharp detail, it works really well at picking it out. Let me just quickly show you the difference it makes. Now in this particular floral shot, it's the central area, the stamen here, that I've used the high pass sharpening technique on. So let's just pick up the zoom tool and go in tight on that area. Now at the moment we've got no sharpening applied to the image, but if let's go in a bit tighter still actually so you can really see what happens. It's sharply focused the area, but if we apply the high pass sharpening technique, just look at this. It really brings the area through, with a really sharp feel that's different in character to something you could generate with the unsharp mask filter. It's a really punchy form of sharpening, and of course it's very adjustable, because the way we're going to do it, I can actually reduce the amount of sharpening bit by bit, or indeed increase it. And I can even change the areas that are sharpened within the image. So it's quite a smart technique, this one, and certainly one that's worth learning. Now this works in Elements or in Photoshop. There's some slight differences in the way you apply it, but the high pass filter is available in both packages. We're going to use Photoshop CS3 in this example, but it works for any version of Photoshop or indeed any version of Elements as well. So let's get started. We'll go back to our full screen mode here by double clicking the hand tool. Open up the image called highpass.jpg. That'll bring this floral up on screen. What we need to do is open our layers palette. So to do that, go up to Window and choose Layers. And then with the layers palette up on screen, what we're going to do is duplicate the background layer here. Let's just adjust the layers palette. There we go. What we're going to do is duplicate it. You can do this by pressing Ctrl and J on the keyboard, or just drag the whole layer over the Create a New Layer icon. There we go, and you'll have either background copy or layer 1 with the same content, depending on which method you take. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to go to Filter, Other, right down at the bottom of the list, Other, and choose High Pass from the list. Click on that and something odd will happen to your picture. You get this strange grey effect, which looks pretty ugly, but don't worry about it, that's exactly what we need. Now there's a radius box, that's the only control you have over the high pass filter, and that runs from 0 to 250 pixels. We need sort of a fairly low value, ideally somewhere around 10 normally works well, but you may need to experiment a little bit. So try around 10, put 10 in the value, and then click OK. You can't do much about the look of it, and it looks pretty bad. But if we go up to the blending mode box here, where it says normal in the layers palette, click there and choose anything from the overlay group. We can go for overlay, which will give us a sharpened effect, or indeed soft light also works, hard light works. It depends on the content of your image and how one layer interacts with the other layer. But something from the overlay group will work with your image. So we'll go for overlay itself in this example. Then if we zoom in tight to that central area, you can see what effect it's having. Right, that's with our sharpening on, and that's with it turned off. You can see there is a pretty enormous difference. It's quite fuzzy and soft in this example, yet switch on that high pass sharpening, and wow, it really punches the detail through. Now the thing is, what we don't want to do is apply the high pass sharpening to the entire image. If we come back to full screen, you can see there's lots of areas within this image that are quite soft and quite diffuse. And we don't want to invade them with high pass sharpening like we have the sharpened areas. So what we want to do is take a little bit of control over where the sharpening works. There's two ways of doing this. One way is using a layer mask, and the other way is by using the eraser. You can use both in Photoshop, but there aren't any layer masks in Elements. So if you're in Elements, just pick up the eraser tool and rub out the areas you don't want. I'll just show you how to do that quickly. Just use a nice big brush. There we go. We use a full pelt eraser, so 100% opacity. We've got the eraser tool, and then we simply rub out the high pass sharpening where we don't want it. So we'll just move around the image very quickly, and we'll end up with something like that. And when we've done that, we'll just see this grey area in the top layer, and that is our high pass sharpening. What we've done is simply removed the effect from around the other areas of the image, so we just have our central sharp area affected by the high pass sharpening filter. Okay, so that's the eraser method. The other one is slightly more refined and slightly more controllable. So I'll just hit Ctrl and Z to return my layer to its former state. And what I'm going to do is add a layer mask to this area. So to do that is really easy. Down at the bottom of the layers palette, there's this icon here. Click on that once and you get a white rectangle alongside the high pass sharpening thumbnail. If we just move our layers palette over to one side and expand it a little bit, we can see what's now going on in this area. Okay, what we're going to do is paint black into this layer mask. So we pick up a paintbrush. Black should be selected in your foreground color swatch. If it's not, hit D and then hit X to get black selected. And then all we're going to do, check our opacity is full at 100%, and then with a pretty large brush, we've got 700 pixels here at the moment, just start painting. And once you do that, the black areas that go into the layer mask have the same effect as the eraser tool. So we just basically rub out the impact of the high pass sharpening in all the areas that we paint black. So there we go, that's given us a pretty decent result. Now all we're left with now is of course the very sharp area in the middle. Now the beauty of layer masks is if you go wrong, you simply reverse the process. Hit X to swap to white. If you see that, X swaps the foreground and background color swatches to black and white, or foreground and background. Once you've got white there, you can then paint into the area again and it restores where you were before. Black makes the effect invisible, white brings it back again. And if you want to go halfway, you can actually paint grey. Just by reducing the opacity in the options bar, you can go to sort of 50% or so, and that means you will paint grey into the area, as you can see in the layer mask thumbnail, and that gives you a 50% view. So black shows you exactly what's coming through from this layer here, white shows you what's on this layer here. Grey shows you that layer half up, running at 50%. Okay, now we need some more white in there. We'll just swap to white and make sure we've got this area nice and sharp. Let's get our opacity back to 100%. There we go, that should do the trick. And there we have a beautifully sharpened high pass macro shot. If we zoom in tight, we can see the kind of before and after. We go on this area here. There we go. If we switch off that layer, that's how it was before, looking a little bit fuzzy, whereas that way, wow, that really punches through. So that's high pass sharpening for you. You can leave your layers intact and save your image as a PSD file, or of course, if you want to save it as a JPEG or anything else, all you need to do is click on the flyout arrow here and go to Flatten Image. And that will crunch all your layers down into one single background layer and allow you to save it in any format you like. So there you go, a great technique for aficionados of Photoshop, high pass sharpening used selectively via a layer mask. Give that a go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.